hello.
Hello. How's it going?
Good. Welcome to another week of Case Files.
With Kat.
And Ashley.
Yeah.
Woo.
Okay, we need to, just right now, we got to dive right in to the Aaron Goodwin story. I don't even want to talk. I don't even want to, shoot the shit with you, at all. I'm like, this is it. We need to talk about it.
I saw that and had to send it to you immediately.
Okay, because this is huge. This is breaking news 14 days later from probably when you're listening to this.
It's breaking news right now.
Right now so give us the backstory again. So you told us last week.
Yeah. So Aaron from Ghost Adventures, his wife was...
and they just got married.
Yeah. She was in contact with a prisoner, and through that prisoner, they put her in touch with a hitman because she wanted Aaron to be dead. And she even asked, does this make me a bad person? Not the divorce, but that I want to end his life or whatever, something to that effect.
The answer is yes.
Yeah, but today they released the name of the prisoner that she was in contact with, which is somebody you covered.
I covered
on
him.
The show.
Holy
Grant,
shit.
Right? Grant Armato is his name.
Grant Armato.
Yeah. And so,
Grant Amato. And he's the guy who killed his family because his long distance bill, it wasn't his long distance bill, but basically he was OnlyFans with
this
webcam girl and paying her by the minute and basically draining the money out of his parents because he didn't have a job. This was he deserved to have this money to pay for this girl that wasn't really his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And he killed his family to get that money. Bonkers.
Yeah.
Bonkers.
But that is who had the phone that when it got confiscated, they do sweeps or whatever. And they found it during the sweep. And on it is where they saw the text messages that he had been contacting the hitman, be like, hey, is this done? Because she had been providing him where Aaron was.
So he was the middleman.
Yeah, but that's who she was in love with. Her and Grant were whatever, And so she would provide him details of Aaron's at the hotel right now, or this is where he's at, or whatever. And
she was telling Grant Amato that.
Yeah, and he was messaging the hitman saying, hey, give me an update. Has this been taken care of? He's sleeping at the hotel right now. So there's all these messages on there, and that's how they found out this whole thing of where she paid the money, that it was definitely her that wanted this to happen. But I just thought it was so crazy that it was Grant of all.
Why? This notorious dumbass. Ugh. He is
why in general, but that's just so
he is such
weird.
A step down from Aaron. 14 steps down from Aaron is not a bad looking dude. Also bald. Both of them are bald. Oh my God.
Crazy people do crazy things.
God.
She's clearly not mentally stable.
Apparently.
To just go straight from, let's not divorce him, let's just kill him.
And he was posting about Valentine's Day and she's my Valentine and all the sweet pictures of them petting cats
talking
and shit.
to Grant about the hit around this February.
Stop it.
Or maybe it was last year, but it had been in the works for a while. They only got married in 2022, and I think she started talking about the hit in 2024, something like that. It's still developing, but I'm pretty sure the article said that she started planning this in 2024 with Grant.
Well, he has filed for divorce.
Well, thank God.
Thank goodness. And oh my God, what a wild story.
I know.
What a wild story.
When I saw that today, I was like, of all people, it was Grant. We have a third host sitting in his little chair. So, sorry for our distraction.
I know, we're so distracted right now.
But yeah, I
ruined it.
No, it's okay. But I was like, oh my, I have to tell her because your story and everything. So anyways, that's the update.
That's the update. Okay. I don't care about what happened in our lives. That's really just the most, that's really the most important. I went to go see my niece this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Took the kids. Just drove up to Dallas for a second. We went to the Meow Wolf there.
Yeah.
So that was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Ours is better, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But we had a good time.
That's
Ate
good.
a lot.
trying to think. I went to the Oddities and Curiosity Expo on Saturday.
Oh, cool. How was that?
Second year. It's really cool to see all the different creative artwork, and I don't know if you're into that kind of stuff. It was really cool.
Totally.
I just like walking around and looking at how creative people are, because I'm like, damn, that's cool. But I would have never have thought about doing that.
But that's like going into Meow Wolf. Like, man, somebody was really high putting
some of them. I'm like,
so what drugs are they on?
Well, some of the things I saw was like, ooh, these people should be investigated. And so I was like, hey, that's pretty cool. You know, like, is that someone's real skin on that, or like? But it's really a cool event. It truly is.
This is too good.
Yeah, it was. It's really. I love going to it. This second year event. It's really fun. I got me a black light poster of Black Phillip, our friend. This says "Live Deliciously" on it, and it's like in Lisa Frank kind of style.
That's funny.
There was a person making homemade, really good black light posters that looked like, you know, when they were first came out, velvety and like old school. Awesome. Anyways,
did you see the Lisa Frank documentary?
No, I refused to watch it.
Wow.
I'm review.
Why?
Because I love Lisa Frank. I was the president of the Lisa Frank Club in my area.
You will not love Lisa Frank.
I know. Anyways.
Yeah, not so great. Okay, so let's get just do your story.
After that rude comment.
I know.
Anyways, so I wanted to do a disappearance because we all know that I love them. And what are we looking at?
There's a little cat scurrying behind you outside.
Oh, okay. Anyways, and so I don't even remember how I heard about. I think it was like someone had posted on a thread of like, what are some of the cases that like still haunt you today or whatever.
Yeah.
And one of the comments was from an agent that worked on this case who said like she just she thinks about it all the time, because it's still unsolved all of this time later. And so it's really weird.
Okay.
To me, it's really weird.
Yeah.
And there's literally no suspects. Ooh, so anyways,
let's see if we can solve it. I mean,
that's what we're here for.
How much time do we got? An hour? We got this.
So Bethany Markowski was born February 1st, 1990. And that just kind of blew my mind, because that's literally exactly 1 month after my sister was born. And so it was like, dang. Yeah. Like, I don't know. It just felt like, kind of put it into, like, she's really, you know, not that long ago. Anyways, so she was born to Johnny Joe Carter and Larry Markowski in Gleason, Tennessee. Now, the couple had 2 children each from previous relationships. Bethany was their 5th and youngest child so they had this one together. Okay. So they each had 2 from other relationships. Bethany was theirs and was the youngest. People would describe Bethany as sweet yet sassy, who was known for her loving nature. In a Dateline episode, her mom would describe her as having a big heart and a big personality to go with it. She had a little sort of attitude, but was very selfless and thought about people all the time. Other than that, there's not a whole lot of background information on Bethany's childhood, quite frankly, because she didn't get to have much of one. So in 2001, Johnny and Larry separated.
So she's 11.
At this time.
Okay.
She's 11. Now, by all accounts of this separation, it was very bitter. Larry and Johnny's relationship, I thought it was Joni. Some said Joni, some said Johnny, but I think it's Johnny. Anyways, the relationship had been doomed from the start. When they first started dating, Larry had told Johnny that he was separated from his wife, who had taken the kids and moved to Alabama. Okay. It wasn't until she was already pregnant with Bethany that she found out that Larry was actually still married and was living with his wife and children. Now, he did end up getting a divorce, and they got married shortly after. He was thrilled when Bethany was born, and supposedly was a great father to her, but later on I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound like he was a great father. Anyways, so I'm gonna say Joni. Joni claimed that he got more controlling as Bethany grew older, and that these were allegations of domestic violence in the home.
More controlling of her.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like more controlling and violent towards the mother, not towards Bethany.
Yeah.
Now, there were lots of accusations against Larry for sexual assault.
Against Joni.
No.
Or against...
He was accused of sexually assaulting 2 family members and also accused of sexually assaulting Bethany and her siblings. Now, classmates of Bethany's came out and said that she confided in them that she had told them that her dad had touched her inappropriately. And after learning about this abuse, Joni knew she had to get out of the situation. Like, it was one thing when it was happening to her, but when she found out it was happening to her children, she was out of there. So she took Bethany while Larry was at work one day and moved in with her sister Lori and her husband and 3 children close to Nashville, Tennessee. So Larry was at work. She got the kids, took off. Now, Joni would enroll Bethany in a new school and would not tell Larry the school's name, where it was, none of that. However...
Did she have all 4 kids or just her original 2?
I think she had just her kids and Bethany. Okay. Like her 2 original kids and Bethany. Honestly, none of the things I read explained where any of the other children were.
Oh,
so they were all focused on Bethany, but my assumption would be she wouldn't leave her kids, right? And then if she had taken his kids, she probably would have been in jail.
Unless he wasn't.
I think maybe his other kids
with their mom
were with their mother.
Yeah.
But Joni's kids were with her, and she took them and Bethany.
Yeah. Okay.
That is how I understood it in most. But in all of the research,
that makes sense.
Yeah, in all of the research, everything was just focused on Bethany's story, so they didn't really talk about the other children. So I don't want to make assumptions, but I do remember that his own kids, were living with their mother.
Okay.
So they're living in Nashville. She doesn't tell him where the school is, none of that. However, he finds it out. And according to Bethany's mother, he showed up at the school and he tried to take Bethany from the school, but several teachers intervened. And
good for them.
Yeah. And it was at this point that she obtained a restraining order against Larry. However, the courts granted him unsupervised visits with Bethany, and they allowed unsupervised weekend visits, mandatory unsupervised weekend visits, and phone calls on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. So,
oh my God.
The restraining order only applied to Joni. So Joni said that because she had this restraining order against Larry, she could not drop Bethany off with him on the weekend, so her sister Lori would be the one to do the drop-offs. So on Friday, March 2nd, 2001, Joni said Lori took Bethany and dropped her off with her father for the weekend. Now, this is the only second unsupervised weekend. The first one was the weekend before. This is the second. So Friday, March 2nd, 2001, Lori drops Bethany off. Joni recalls prior to this, about a week before, Bethany kept asking her things like, what are you going to do if Daddy doesn't bring me home? And just kept saying she didn't want to go.
How is Daddy not a suspect or in jail right now? Okay, go ahead.
However, because it was court-ordered visitation, she had no choice but to let her go. So according to Joni, Bethany and Larry spent the weekend in Gleason and a few hours away in Little Rock, Arkansas. She said that she spoke to Bethany on Sunday morning, March 4th. She says, around 9:38 a.m. Sunday morning, the phone rang. It was Bethany. She said Bethany was repeatedly asking her, so I'll see you at 5, right? And Joni said yes, as her sister had planned to pick Bethany up from Larry at 5 p.m. in Waverly, Tennessee, and bring her back home. She said that Bethany seemed upset, and remember, she told Bethany that she loved her, and they hung up the phone, and this would be the last time she ever spoke to her daughter.
Oh my God, I can't even imagine. Oh, I can't imagine. Oh.
So 5 p.m. rolls around. Lori could not get in touch with Bethany nor Larry. And Joni had been trying. Nobody could get in touch with him. Larry's first weekend visitation with Bethany had taken place. I said 1 week before, but it was 2 weeks before. And it had been very uneventful. It went through, no issues. Lori dropped her off. Lori picked her up on time. for all purposes, it was uneventful. He had returned her at the appointed place and time, and Lori expected this weekend would be the same. She realized something was really wrong when she hadn't seen any signs of Larry or Bethany by 6 p.m. So, unsure what to do, she tried to call Larry's home, but received no answer, and eventually Joni was contacted, not by Larry, but by the Jackson police, who let her know that Bethany was missing. That phone call that she had gotten from Bethany, she did say that it had originally come from Larry's home. So they know that Bethany was alive and at
9:38
at his home at 9:38 in the morning. So it was the beginning of a nightmare for her, and she immediately drove to Jackson, Tennessee to join in this search for her daughter. Now, what Larry tells the police makes no sense to me.
Oh, this is gonna make me sound. I'm picking up my computer to get ready to throw it.
Larry told the police he and Bethany had stopped at the Old Hickory Mall in Jackson, Tennessee around 2:30 p.m. that afternoon. According to Larry, he said
Any cameras?
I'm getting there. According to Larry, he said he was taking a nap in the car while Bethany went in the mall alone. She's 11.
Shut up.
He said that the reason he wanted to take a nap is because he had been up most of the night driving back to Tennessee and didn't see an issue with napping while Bethany went shopping. He said she wanted to go to Claire's into the mall's game room. Larry would later tell authorities that he woke up anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour later and realized Bethany had not returned to the van yet, or the truck. And he said he then went into the mall to look for her, and after what he claims was hours of searching,
without telling anybody.
My thing
Come
is
on.
If she called her mother at 9:38 in the morning, that means you were at your house, so you couldn't have slept then. You went from 9:30 to 2:30 to nap, but he told the police they were driving all night, so police never really followed up on that. I guess there was nothing.
That's a good point, Ashley. That's a really good point. Like, you were home, you could have slept. You didn't have to go to the mall.
At this point, after hours of searching for her and not finding her
and not telling anybody to help. Okay.
Right. He reported her missing to the mall security, and at 6 p.m. that night, the Jackson Police Department was notified. So she goes missing from, we'll just say 3, because he says he didn't remember if it was 30 minutes or an hour.
Oh my God, please tell me there's video.
And so from, let's just say 3 to 6, he's looking for her, not calling her mother, not calling the sister, not telling mall security. Mall security finally gets notified. They called the police department, not him, the fucking mall security. So the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation agent Kathy Ferguson, who worked for the Jackson police at the time Bethany disappeared, told Dateline in an interview that she remembered searching personally for Bethany. Me and other investigators personally went to the mall, looked, and collected every single surveillance video from any store that had them. Joni, Lori, and Lori's husband each also headed to the mall that same night to join Larry in the search for Bethany. Joni said that she hoped that, and said this in the interview, that maybe she's just hiding. Maybe they got into an argument and she's just scared. But Bethany was nowhere to be found in that mall. Now, Agent Ferguson said that after conducting interviews and looking at every single store's security videos, investigators were not able to corroborate, that Bethany was ever even at the mall. There was literally nothing. No proof. There was no proof that she had even been in the parking lot. There was nothing of her entering the mall. Nothing. All they saw was Larry looking for her inside the mall. On March 6th,
so there's nothing of her going into the mall.
And he claimed he was already napping when she gets out of the car. He doesn't want her to go in. He says he saw her walking through the parking lot and assumed that she was going to go in, and then just got in the back seat to take a nap.
Okay, said no parent ever. Even if you are dropping your kid off at the mall, you pull up to the door and you don't go park and go, see you later, have fun. Like, that just isn't how it works. She's 11. That just isn't how it works, unless you just don't care about your kid.
She was not seen in the parking lot. She was not seen going into any entrance and not going into any of the stores of the mall. He was, but she was not, said Joni.
When did he arrive to the parking lot of the mall?
The time that he said that he dropped her off 2:30. And then he claims that he just let her out of like they were parked. She got out of the truck. He went to take a nap.
Okay, but there was sometime between 9:38 and 2:30 is probably when the crime was committed, and then
you would think
got his alibi.
You would think
by sitting in the mall for hours. Okay. Solved. Done. Put him in jail. Okay.
You would think, but that's not what they decided happened, and I'll talk about it later. On March 6th, 2 days after Bethany was reported missing, the Texas Bureau of Investigation became involved with the case to broaden the scope of the investigation and utilize more resources. Agent Ferguson said everything was vetted and run to the ground in 2001, including any tips, leads, or information they had initially. The TBI was only able to confirm that Larry and Bethany had indeed been in Arkansas for part of the weekend visiting a friend of Larry's named Harold. Harold did confirm that Larry and Bethany had spent a little bit of time at his home in Little Rock, after which they left supposedly to return to Tennessee. Now, Harold was ruled completely, had nothing to do. He was just innocent. Larry came by with his daughter. They hung out for a little bit, left. Investigators were very skeptical and initially believed that Larry might have hidden Bethany somewhere in an attempt to gain full custody of her, even if it meant by illegal means. Despite a very intense investigation, they were unable to find any evidence, however, to support that theory. I will say they did give lie detector tests to both the mother and the father. The mother passed, the father did not. I know that's really super shocking, but she actually, I don't have this written down, but I did read that when they asked her if she had lied to anyone recently, she broke down and said, yes, I lied to Bethany when I told her I would be there at 5 to pick her up, because Lori was going to be the one that picked her up. And so that was just, she felt so guilty that she told her, yes, we'll be there to pick you up. And then
but she wasn't
they were never able to pick her up. Well, she wasn't there to be picked up. And so, but she ended up passing every lie detector test and the father didn't. Anyways, so while the police and investigators haven't named a specific person of interest, they have said that technically, and they can't truly rule out either parent. Although,
he was the last one with her. He was the last. How is she even? She wasn't even. Oh my God.
Although Larry has been under more scrutiny because of his story never really making sense, Larry has continued to deny that he had anything to do with Bethany's disappearance. Investigators, like I said, initially believed that he had hidden her to try to gain custody of her, but again, they couldn't ever find anything to support this theory other than that he just seems like a piece of shit. I don't know why the sexual abuse allegations never came into play again, unless it's just because they weren't initially reported to the police. I don't know. But they never bring it up in the investigation on a possible reason Larry would have done something to her, just that he may have done something to get custody of her. And I thought that was kind of strange that it didn't play a factor into any further investigations. At least, I read probably 12, 13 articles.
I can't believe that he still had a podcast. Visiting rights.
Yeah.
I can't believe he had full visiting rights.
Like I said, I listened to Dateline and a People magazine article and read 13 articles and listened to a podcast about it, and none of it mentions why the sexual assault stuff never came back up. But anyways, detectives believe that Bethany might have actually been abducted by someone as she made her way across the mall parking lot.
Oh, please.
However, Joni said that she was certain Bethany would have created a scene if anyone had tried to force her into a car. She said that she had taught Bethany to kick and scream and just make the biggest scene possible if she ever found herself confronted by a stranger. She said if she had been taken by someone else, it would have had to have been someone who had gained her trust first, aka her father. There were no security cameras in the parking lot of the mall, just at the entrances. So they couldn't actually verify that she was in the truck, got out of the truck. And you know what I mean?
And they can't verify that he was sitting in the truck for an hour. Like, so there's no proof that he was there for that hour.
Correct. There's just footage.
Walking in.
Yeah. Because the videos, the cameras are all pointed at the entrances, not the parking lot at that time. No one that was at the mall or in the parking lot at the mall during this time frame reported seeing anything unusual. Despite numerous searches, days turned into weeks without any progress being made on the case. Detectives were unable to find any witnesses who had seen Bethany on the day she disappeared, and there were no reported sightings of her in the following weeks. Then, this is crazy to me. About a month after Bethany went missing, police were alerted that a woman had tried to enroll a girl who looked just like Bethany in a school in eastern Tennessee. She was described as a blonde, white woman in her 40s, and she had left without enrolling the child because she didn't have the proper paperwork for her. Now, in the same year, about a month later, like around the same time frame, in April 2001, employees at a restaurant in Cleveland, Texas, reported seeing a girl matching Bethany's description on 3 consecutive days. Each time she was with the same blonde woman. The pair allegedly boarded a bus going to Illinois, and police checked the bus when it reached its destination, but were unable to locate the woman or the child. These sightings couldn't really be confirmed, but when they described the woman to Bethany's mother, she believes that the child was her daughter and that the woman was one of Larry's relatives. The woman was described as like very unkept. Like she was like just looked a mess. And she had this little girl with her. Like both the restaurant and the other, the school both described the woman the exact same way, and there was no connection between the school and the, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it was like too weird of a coincidence.
They stood out enough for people to go,
in 2 different
something's
cities.
Not right. Yeah.
And the mother fully believes that was Bethany with this woman, and that woman was a relative of Larry's. But because the sightings couldn't be confirmed, and if they had boarded the bus, they got off the bus before the actual destination because they were not on the bus. Neither the woman or the little girl that had been described getting onto the bus were actually in Illinois when the bus arrived, because the police were waiting for the bus when it got there. So if they got off at a different stop, maybe they got tipped off, maybe she got spooked, maybe she was trying to throw people off, I don't know, but they were not on that bus when it stopped. So detectives pursued this lead for months, but were never able to make any connection to Bethany or Larry's family. Her mother still believes it was a relative. Detectives continue to, they actively investigate Bethany's case. They believe that this case is solvable. They are aware of the fact that parental abductions are far more common than stranger ones, and over the years, they've considered both possibilities. According to the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations, there is no information to suggest that Bethany's mother was involved in the disappearance whatsoever. And they have never been able to conclusively rule Larry out as a suspect. So the mother's been ruled out. The father has not. But they, again, have no evidence that shows that he was involved except for, all of the lies in the story that didn't make sense. They have also been unable to rule out the possibility that Bethany was abducted by a stranger because, again, there was no video cameras of the actual area of the parking lot where she would have disappeared from. In 2021...
I feel like if you tap his phone, or if you, I don't know, man, follow him on the next vacation, see where he goes. I don't know. Put a tracker on his car, see where he goes, and see if the kid is there, He's going to see her. Yeah. He wouldn't have a family take her if he wasn't going to see her again.
Unless they killed her because it was too much.
Unless they killed her.
In 2021, he was in another interview, and he said, this is what he said in this interview.
Who is this, the agent?
This is the father.
Oh my God.
In an interview.
Who cares?
He says, we took a nap in the van.
Whoa.
She wanted to go up to the mall. She wanted to go up in the mall. She went up supposedly, and I fell asleep a while and woke up to look for her. Why would you use the word supposedly? She went up supposedly. Wouldn't you just say she went up to the mall? But his own wording, this was a direct quote from his interview. She went up supposedly, and I fell asleep a while and woke up to look for her. I made a mistake by letting her go in the mall. I shouldn't have done that. He goes on to say, I picked her up on Friday. We went to Arkansas, and the whole time we was there, we visited and everything else. Then we went to my house in Gleason. Well, she wanted to go out. She wanted to go to the mall in Jackson, to go to Claire's and the game room, so we go to the mall at 1:30 or 2 o'clock. So I stretched out in the back seat of the van. It was not 30 minutes later. I went in and I couldn't find her. I went in the mall and I looked everywhere. They got a podcast going around that says I'm a mean villain of a human being. First of all, you went to the house, so you could have napped then. Secondly, she supposedly went up to the mall. And secondly, you don't know if you went to the mall at 1:30 or 2. Like, what was it? Like, how do you not know? You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like...
It's the day your daughter disappeared. Like, why wouldn't you know all those details?
Like, 1:30 to 2 is a very... Like, I could see if you were like, I don't know, like 1:30, 1:35. But 1:30 or 2, and then you don't know if you slept 30 minutes or an hour. Like, I just feel like it's very inconsistent and very strange for someone whose daughter just went missing. So the podcast he's referring to is called Searching for Ghosts, and it's actually a really good podcast. They do a really amazing outline of the timeline of her disappearance. Mm-hmm. And in the interview, they interview Larry's friend Harold, the one who...
Poor Harold.
Yeah. Harold said in their interview that he being Larry, said, well, I'm going to take my van down to the port of Mexico and you can have it. You just have to come and get it and it'll be yours. So they're like, what the fuck?
Why was he going to go to Mexico?
So they asked Larry about this statement, and he says, I'm a truck driver. I drove to all 48 states in Canada. If I was going to go to Mexico, wouldn't I have left Little Rock and gone to Mexico? And I dang sure wouldn't have called my so-called buddy Harold to come and get the van. Nothing was ever said like that. It's a witch hunt and a pack of lies. I believe that somebody has her and she's going to come home like J.C. Dugart. I don't care how they smear me. All I care about is my daughter. I love my daughter with all my heart. Yeah, that's what he said. But first of all, I didn't understand the truck driving statement and what the hell does that have to do with you going to Mexico with your daughter? Like, I didn't understand why that's how he replied. Okay, so you're a truck driver. What does that have to do with anything? Like, wouldn't that make it easier for you to get your daughter, out of the state? You know what I mean? I feel like that makes you more suspicious to me in my mind. Like, when I read that he was a truck driver from that, because that's the only...
I think the question was, what were you going to do? Why were you going to Mexico? And he was like, I'm a truck driver. I've been everywhere. And maybe that he was trying to make it sound like that.
He was like, if I was going to go to Mexico, he was like, if I was going to go to Mexico, wouldn't I have left Little Rock and just gone to Mexico?
And not tell his friend and come pick up the evidence. He probably would have ditched it, but it makes him look super... I just think
the whole statement's really weird.
Suspicious. It's very suspicious.
But when I read that he was a truck driver, because this is the only thing that mentioned he was a truck driver, was his own interview on this podcast, was like, oh, he could have literally have gotten her in a truck and taken her anywhere in the country. You know, or if she was dead, could have hidden her anywhere. But anyways, he claims that it's a witch hunt. All lies. He is not the villain. He had nothing to do with his disappearance, even though he was accused by multiple people of sexually assaulting them, including her. And he was very angry at her mother, very bitter about the whole thing. We've seen people do worse things for less. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a weird statement that he believed she was going to come home like JC. Like, weird to me. I don't know if anyone else finds it weird, but I find it weird.
He's just, Yeah, he's weird. He thinks he's smarter than he is.
Like, you were reading about true crime and you just wanted, like, I don't know. It's a weird statement to me if you're missing, your daughter's gone. In 2016, somewhere between 2016 and 2017, Bethany's mother received a call from the Texas Bureau of Investigation about a girl who was found passed out on the front porch of a residence in Knoxville, Tennessee. When found by the homeowners, she claimed to be Bethany Markowski.
Stop it.
While she had very similar identifying marks to the missing girl, DNA ultimately proved she wasn't her. But how weird is that?
That is so
she had weird. She looked very similar, according to Bethany's mother, like very similar, like identifying marks. You know what I mean? Not like hair color, like scars or stuff.
I wonder why she said she was Bethany.
So her mom was quoted in an interview after this incident saying, "When I looked at the picture of this girl, I think my brain knew it was not you, but my heart was praying so hard that it was."
Oh, gosh. Oh, that breaks my heart so much.
So again, at the time that Bethany disappeared, she was 11. She was 4'8" and weighed 95 pounds. She has brown hair and green eyes. And if she is alive, she's 35 years old now.
Wow.
They did do the age progression photos. Uh-huh. And, honestly, I don't mean this in any kind, she would blend in. She's not that blonde hair, blue eyed type.
Right.
You know what I mean? She just looks like your everyday person. She's very beautiful, but she just looks like she would just blend in with any kind of crowd.
How tall do they think she would be?
They didn't say.
Oh, really? Because gosh, I mean,
but she has in the age progression, she has long brown hair, freckles.
She could have short.
Honestly, she could
be blonde right now.
Yeah, and so when I say that she could just blend in, it's like his family could take her anywhere, and it wouldn't be suspicious to anyone who didn't know this story, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
She wasn't like the little Mexican girl hanging out.
She wasn't like John, but how do you say her name?
John Benet Ramsey.
Yeah. So
there's Madeline.
Yeah.
Madeline McCann.
Yeah. So since Bethany's disappearance, her mother has never stopped looking for her, all of this time.
Wow.
She has worked to help other families with missing children.
4 years. Wow.
Yeah. The family advocated to pass a bill in the state legislature in honor of Brittany to make March 4th, the day that she went missing, Tennessee's Missing Children's Day. Families from across the state come together to host a vigil and to release balloons with pictures of Tennessee's missing children attached to them. Wow. She routinely volunteers with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And what she told an NBC News in an interview with them, she said, "The day is still seared into my mind and I could never forget it. Oh my gosh. We're still looking for her. We are not giving up. No mother ever wants to think that their child's not alive, especially without any proof. But there are days when I question that myself." Now, she did say that she questioned if March 4th should be the day for Tennessee's missing children. She's like, I feel like internally, that means I'm taking my attention away from looking for Bethany by helping other people look for their children. But then she said, that's what Bethany would want, because Bethany was very selfless like that. And so she went ahead and pushed March 4th to be that day. In another interview, she says, "I can't sit here and say that I'll see Bethany one day, but what I can say is I will die fighting to bring her home. We'll get her home one day."
Oh my gosh.
I know. In a 2021 interview with People, she states, "It feels like it was yesterday, and it feels like it was never really here. It's kind of hard to explain. Not only do you lose the person, after a while you start losing the memory of them, how they looked, how they smell, how they laughed. And that's hard. It's really hard."
Oh my gosh.
When I watched the interview, it was like, the interview is hard to watch. Her interviews are really hard because she talks about, that she has been gone longer than she was there, and about how hard it is to start losing the memory of your child. And it's really sad. Joni is very relentless. She advocates for her daughter on social media. She's placed Bethany on every missing persons list she ever finds. She works to spread awareness and gain support for missing children like Bethany. Later in that same interview, she stated, "I guess that's the thing that keeps me going, is the fact I'm her mom. If I stop, everybody stops. Not looking for Bethany is just not an option. She always had a smile on her face. She has the biggest heart. She couldn't stand for people to make fun of old people or kids with disabilities or kids that were poor. She didn't like it at all. She always stood up for the underdog, and I could care less if anyone spends a second in prison for this. I just want to bring Bethany home." I will say that Larry has never been involved in any of this stuff, looking for her, trying to find her. I mean, every now, like that interview that I read where he said it was witch hunt was like the first interview he had done, and that was in 2021. And it was because of the podcast calling him out, basically. And for Harold saying, that stuff about Mexico. But that was the first interview he had really done publicly. Agent Ferguson said in the same 2021 People interview, "Somebody out there knows where Bethany is and what happened to her. I think that the Lord will move somebody's heart that knows what happened to Bethany, and they will tell us. None of us will ever stop believing that we can find Bethany." Tips do still periodically come in, Agent Ferguson told Dateline in a different interview, adding that over the years, thousands of leads have been vetted.
Wow.
And they vet every single one to this day that comes in.
Wow.
Someone will call in and maybe they've seen somebody that looks like her age progression photo, and they'll forward us all of that information. However, the leads have pretty much stopped trickling in. The case does remain unsolved. No suspects, no official suspects. They do say if anyone believes they have information about the case, and I'm going to post her age progression picture and her original photo on the post on social media, but to call any of the following, and I'll have all of their numbers in the show notes: the Jackson Police Department, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, or the Memphis Field Office of the FBI. Again, all of the numbers for these places or how to contact them, because for the Texas Bureau of Investigation, you can even email them. You can be anonymous if you want. If you call the tip lines. Anyways, all of that will be in the show notes. But that's my story about Bethany. I personally still feel like the father's involved. I feel like
she's so cute, and yeah, she could just be anybody's kid,
next door neighbor, and you just wouldn't. You know what I mean? She looks like your all American type. I don't know how to say it, but yeah,
she's just looks like a lot of people.
And I just feel like the father did it. I don't care what they say. I truly feel like Larry's involved somehow. I don't know how, but he had a van.
He was the last one to see her. He was with her. He was in charge of her. And I don't know how this, he gets to just be like, she walked out my car and I never saw her again. That is just...
And didn't know how long she had been gone. One of the things he said was when he was searching the mall, he left the mall to go back to his van to see if she had just slipped by him, as he said. And when she wasn't at the van, that's when he supposedly went back in and told security that he couldn't find her anywhere. But who searches for 4 hours
without telling anybody?
Because the mall security could have shut down the exits. You know what I'm saying? They could have prevented people from leaving the mall, but you're just going to search for 4 hours on your own when people are leaving and could have your daughter and leave with your, I don't know. The mother was very adamant about that. She taught her daughter to cause a scene, a big scene. So she just truly does not believe a random person snatched her from the parking lot.
She wasn't in the mall. Wasn't in the mall. Oh, that is, I can tell. I can see why that's a haunting one, because you know who did it. That's it. You know the perpetrator. You know the person responsible for her disappearance, if not death. And there's nothing you can do.
My question is also why would Harold lie about the Mexico statement?
Right.
That just seems weird, a weird thing to make up. Even if he was just trying to insert himself into the story, why would that be the story unless he was involved somehow and he was trying to throw them off? But Larry never accused Harold of anything. Joni never accused him of anything. Why were the sexual abuse allegations amongst
all those people,
5 different girls, never followed up with? Why was he allowed to have visitation? Like, there's just so many things about this, and a lot of people, like, there's Reddit threads of this. There's forums about the story. They're like, the investigators
failed her.
Yeah, the investigators did a horrible job of follow up on some of these things.
But the judge let her still have visitation. Yeah. That family court judge was like, that's cool. I feel like
once he showed up at the school and tried to abduct her, his rights should have been taken for visitations.
He is her parent, though, and he still had rights, and technically they couldn't have stopped him, at least not in Texas. Yeah. But they could have like held him, and alerted. They did the right thing. I mean, they're like, they stopped him knowing the situation, but
my thing is, like, so he was going to try to take her then, but now she disappears and you're not responsible for it.
Like, you're not wondering, huh? They probably are wondering, but they're like, we got nothing. They're just waiting. They're waiting for someone to come forward.
So,
is he still alive? I hate him.
Mm-hmm. At least he was in 2021, 2024.
I hate your story.
I know. I'm sorry.
Okay, so if we hear anything, who do we contact again?
I'm going to have all the phone numbers in the show notes, but it's either the Jackson Police Department, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, or the Memphis Field Office of the FBI. All of those will take the case. All of them will take calls. You can report anonymously through the tip line.
All right. Well, if anybody hears anything, man, next week I got a story. That's it. That's all I'm going to tell you.
I forgot one very important note about Larry.
Oh.
I can't believe I forgot to say this.
Go.
Between 12:15 that day and 5:45 that day, the day she was missing, his phone was shut off for those 4 hours. And nobody knows why. So I meant to bring that up when Lori was trying to get a hold of him and stuff and couldn't get a hold of him. Part of that was like they were blowing his phone up. He wasn't answering. His phone was not on and it wasn't pinging anywhere from around like 1 o'clock to about the time that he turned it on to report. When he went to report to the mall security, that's when his phone came back on. So I meant to say that I'm totally sorry. That's a very important note that I cannot believe I forgot to say. But yeah. So.
Wow. Wowie wow. Wow. Yeah, I hate your story.
I know, I'm so sorry.
Okay, everybody. Well, on that light note, we are going to bid you adieu. But yeah, so next week I do have a story. I'm not gonna tell you about it. And so we are being Saturday and the Toastmaster. So if we don't do an episode next week, it'll be because I had no time because I was too busy getting ready for this thing. So it's possible. It's possible. I'm just,
I like how she acts like she's not gonna win.
It's possible because I'm all of a sudden really nervous.
Oh, stop
talking about it. I'm like, oh, it's Saturday, shit. Anyway, so until then, see something,
say something,
and please be kind to each other. Thank you.
Bye.